Jean-Pierre, how's it going? I'm a longtime fan of your work, and I'm so happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I try to make another feature now, and it's not easy because the world is very different now. You have to struggle to find the money to explain what you want to convince young people, and the young people explain to you what you have to do, of course.
I hope that you find the financing because I'm a longtime fan of your work, and I want to, for our listeners, go all the way back to the beginning. When did you first know that you were interested in making films? How old were you?
I was 8, and at 8, I built a small theater in miniature. I built some character. I made the costume. I wrote a story. I destroyed the light of my parents for the lighting of the theater, and they had to pay it. I was producer as well. A little bit later, I was 12 maybe. I bought a ViewMaster in 3D. That's the reason I love so much 3D, and I made TS Pivot in 3D. I remember I cut the frames and I changed the order of the frames to make a kind of different story. I worked a lot during months and months to earn a little bit money. I was 12 maybe, to buy a tape recorder, and I recorded some kind of dialogues with my friends. I didn't know, but it was a kind of first film and the most important moment of my life. I was 17, and some friends of my parents came at home with a separate camera. And the guy said, "Do you want to try it?" And I pushed the button. All my life, I will remember the vibration, the smell of the plastic. I thought, okay, I have just to work and I will buy a camera and I will be a director. I will make some film. And I did. I worked at the telephone company and I bought the camera and the screen and the everything.
I love Super 8 film, and I've been kind of looking to see in Los Angeles where I could have some developed and start shooting some again because it's just a beautiful medium to shoot on Super 8. So I love it. So
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Feeling
Yeah.
feeling the vibration of the film running through the camera is just
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And
Uh,
later I bought a 16 millimeters camera, a Beaulieu, and someone stole me. I cried.
they stole it from you. Did they take it like when it was unaccompanied, or did they grab it out of your hands?
No, they broke my door when I was outside.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. My first introduction to your work, like most of the world, was through Delicatessen, the 1991 film, and it's a classic. I love every frame of it, and it's a heck of a first film. I could, of course, dedicate an entire episode to just talking about Delicatessen, but I just want to ask you a question or two today. What would you say that was your process for co-writing Delicatessen? Because we're going to talk about writing and storytelling a bit with Mark Caro. How did that work out?
It wasn't easy to write. We were free with Gilles Adrien. It wasn't easy. We spent a lot of time. It was easy to write a synopsis, 30 pages, but after that, to write the film, it was a big deal. And of course, it was a first movie, so we couldn't know if we will be able to find the money, the budget. And it wasn't the case. We lost 10 years. Previously, we wrote The City of Lost Children, and previously another one we have never made.
What was the
So
title of the one that you never
the
made?
title was 110 degree under zero. It was about the people they want to be frozen, like Walt Disney. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A kind of science fiction movie. And it's funny because now I am in Provence. It's too dark now to show you the landscape by the window. But it was in 85, and I was at the same place. And every day I was buying the bread at the village, and I saw a roof of my house, but I couldn't imagine one day I will make a big success like Amélie and I will be able to buy a house in Provence. If someone would tell me that, I would die, probably.
That kind of lost film that you just mentioned, the science fiction film, is that something that you could revive and get out there to see
No,
if it
but you can buy the script because my brother is an editor. And I wrote also a souvenir book, but it's in French, it's not in English. And the script as well, it's in French, not in English. So sorry. And it's funny because we got back some small part of the script. For example, the bathroom in Delicatessen with the water falling on the stairs. The mouse with the magnet on the City of Lost Children is coming from this film as well.
what would you say was your toughest scene to envision with your co-writers on Delicatessen?
Everything was tough, probably because at the beginning you lose a lot of time to go to bad way. When you are older, I don't know why it's faster. Probably because the brain remember this is not a good way. It's not necessary to explore this way, and you go directly to the best direction. Probably this is my theory. At this time for Delicatessen or the city, maybe sometime I lost one day to find one idea. Now it's 1 hour. I decide I need 1 hour to find an idea, and it works. So
It,
it's better to get older for imagination, maybe.
one scene I've always been curious about how it looked on the page was the sex scene. When the whole building is hearing them having sex, you have amazing cross cutting, you have the bed squeaking, you have people doing their chores in the building. It's all perfectly synchronized.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
that like on the page?
First of all, the idea came from a friend of mine, my boss at this time. I was working on an animation studio. We were just two. He was Manuel Otero. You can see some short film from this guy in the bonus of the Blu-ray of T.S. Pivet. And often came the morning at the office, and he was saying, I couldn't sleep during the whole night. The couple above my apartment, the whole night was nigger, 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 nigger. It was a joke, you know. And when I imagined that scene, it was very complicated because it has to be storyboard very precisely because we worked with metronome, you know, the click,
Yeah,
click, click, click. So every shot, we knew it was 80, 60, 70, click, click. And it was very difficult to edit because we had to match for the frame
right.
and for the picture and to match for the sound. It was a nightmare to edit and nightmare for the mixing. And I remember when we made the first test screening with friends, Marc Caro and Gilles Adrien and some other people, they told me, it's not necessary, we have to cut it. I was ready to listen. And my editor said, no, don't listen to them. It's stupid. This is the best scene. And in fact, it got the trailer. It was a trailer. We had so many rip-off of that scene. So luckily, I didn't cut it.
It's an interesting thing about a lot of your work, and we're going to talk about it with Amélie, in such that you have moments that you could argue pragmatically that they don't belong because it doesn't either move the story forward or the hero's journey forward or any of that, but it's some of your most memorable moments.
A friend of mine told me sometime in your film, we know exactly what will happen, but it's good because we know and we expected that and we are waiting for that. And I understand that sometimes, it's better than it's a surprise.
What was your
Yeah.
biggest lesson on Delicatessen before we move on?
We learn to resist to the stress because the boss on stage, it's not the director. This is the boss. Where is the boss? This is the boss, the time. And you fight against the time all along the day, especially when the budget is not totally enough. You would like to die if you don't have every shot because everything is so prepared, so storyboarded. I have to make everything, otherwise the scene doesn't work. And it was very stressful. Now it's a little bit better. I try to have some distance.
City of Lost Children is another classic. I'm curious, what was your biggest lesson on that film? And did your creative process change at all?
I wrote a line, the boat destroy the pier. And at this time you are in the deep shit. But don't give up. Insist with your crew because everyone says, we won't be able to do that. It will be too expensive. And at the end, it's on the film. Ridley Scott says, you have to be like a dog with a stick on your jaw, and don't give up. Keep your stick. And it was the best lesson. And we did. The film at the beginning wasn't a big success in France because, of course, when you have a success like Delicatessen, they are waiting for you. They want to kill you, of course. But little by little, it got a cult movie. And now I am very happy because Sony Classic released the film in 4K and we made the beautiful restoration.
I love the movie. I absolutely love it. Again, I would happily interview you a full episode about that movie as well. Not to bring up too much trauma, but Alien Resurrection was your next film. It was your first Hollywood experience. What was the craziest moment of working on that film? Because I'm sure there were many crazy moments.
Every day was crazy because I was used to say it was a tougher day in my life, but every day. Because strangely, nothing worked on set. The idea of Hollywood collapsed in front of me. I was expecting something very professional. No, the first day of the shooting, my first rolling, a very important moment, very emotional. Rolling, the camera didn't work. It was a symbol. But it was a great, great, great experience. And I have to say, the 20th Century Fox gave me almost a total freedom. It wasn't easy because it was too expensive. They asked me to cut some shots every day. One day, an executive producer, not the line producer, told me, make just one shot on 3 beautiful. It will be enough. Can you believe it? And no, I wanted to make everything beautiful. So you have to fight against the studio for the studio. It's a strange relationship, But I am very happy about the film. I made my film. Matthew Kassovitz, the actor in Amélie, told me it looks like Jean-Pierre Jeunet's movie, but with alien inside. I made a personal movie. I know in USA a lot of people hate it because it's with humor. It's not enough alien for them. But I don't care. I made a personal movie. But it wasn't a big success in USA. It was a correct success in the rest of the world. And in France, when I came back, I was on Hero. It was like I won the soccer Mondial Cup alone, you know.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Well, I want to get to Amélie finally, and you came up with the concept and you co-wrote, I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, you could correct me, Guillaume Laurent.
No, it's good. Bravo.
Okay, okay, good. What was different about co-writing with Laurent?
It's very important to have someone because when you are alone, sometimes you are in front of a wall and you have a problem and you don't see there is a door and you don't see the door. With Guillaume, we are so close. When I'm looking for an idea, I call him and immediately we speak, talk, 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 talk. It's like ping pong. And in 1 minute, we find the solution. And he's like a brother for me. We are very, very, very close. And I wrote all my films since Amélie with him. Even on Alien Resurrection, we started to write on the ending because we were looking for a cheaper ending. He started to work on Alien Resurrection. But Amélie was the first big deal. And we worked in Normandy during the Mondial World Cup in 98. So we were watching football games and we were writing. And it was such a pleasure. It was very easy because I made a collection of notes, anecdotes, stories, memories during 25 years. And we had a big box full of anecdotes. And one day we decided to create a story. It was pretty not easy to make the skeleton of the story, but after that, it was easy to write.
Talking about making the skeleton of the story, how important is outlining to your process before you start screenwriting?
The most difficult part is to create the skeleton. But after that, we have a very special process with Guillaume. He writes the dialogue, the scenes, and I write the visual scenes. And of course, I send him my scene and same thing on the opposite way. And I modify and he puts some dialogue on my scenes. It's a kind of ping pong. This is our way to work.
I've interviewed very few people who work like that, as so many American writers are also dialogists. Do you find it easier to not write dialogue? Is that not something that you enjoy?
It's not my cup of tea to write dialogues. I don't like that. When I read my own dialogues, it's a little bit like to hear your own voice on the tape recorder. You know what I mean? You don't like that. And Guillaume is so brilliant for that because there is a French poet I love, Jacques Prévert. And I love the film from Jacques Prévert, like Children of Paradise. This is the most famous. This is not my favorite, but it's from the 40s and 50s. I pushed Guillaume to go in that way. And the name of that creation was Realisme Poétique, the poetic realism. It means we make a distance with the dialogues. We put some poetry on a realistic story, not only with the dialogue, with the music, with the lighting, with the acting, with the production design. It's a little bit timeless, Amélie, somewhere, you know. But the dialogues are very important, and Guillaume is very good for that.
I know that on Amelie, you had said that the one scene where your dialogue stayed in the movie was when
Oh,
they're
yes.
coming up with how to pronounce Collignon, the grocer.
Yes, Collignon, Tatagnon, Collignon, Crapchignon. Yes, it's funny in French. I don't know. I
Right.
don't. It's understandable in
It
English.
translates.
I wrote that scene myself. I have to admit. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah,
that's your
sometimes.
dialogue that survived. Well, so when you're co-writing, I'm curious, when you sit down to write, do you give yourself a goal of pages or a certain goal of hours each day?
For Amélie, the timing was because the football game in the middle of the afternoon. We have to finish before the game. No, it depends. Sometimes you spend 1 week on a scene, and sometimes you write very easily. It depends the scene. But as I said now, when you get older, it's more easy to find ideas.
When you sit down to write something as detailed as Amelie, I'm curious, how many pages was your screenplay? Because I could see it being long on description because there's so many interesting things happening at once, but at the same time, you're writing something to direct, and sometimes you might just be making shorthand notes because you know what you're going to do.
In fact, it was 120 pages, and there is a concept we are used to say it's 1 minute per page, and it was exactly 2 hours. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but it was 2 hours for 120 pages. For me, it's to make the storyboard after that.
How long did it take you to get your first draft?
The first draft, I would say at all, it's probably 1 year. Luc Besson told me one day, if you spend more than 3 weeks, it's because you are lazy. No, you need 1 year.
That's funny.
Everybody needs 1 year, yeah.
It's true that you do your own storyboards. Tell us about that process and maybe how Amelie changed once you started storyboarding, because I could see that as a place for revisions.
I make some storyboard because I believe in working hard, just because I love that. It's like to sand and to varnish and to sand and to varnish. You know, when I am looking for funny or beautiful ideas, it's before the shooting, during the preparation. So it's not expensive because I can spend 1 day for one idea. It's not expensive. When you are on stage, you have to go fast. So it's better to have everything ready. After that, I go further, and probably I'm the only one to do that. I go on stage during the weekend, and I have some stunts, some doubles, and I remake the storyboard in the real stage with my video camera or my iPhone now, and I spell that the photo board. It's a second step. And of course, I change the storyboard because I go further. And when I arrive the day of the shooting, I change again. You know, I send and I varnish and I send and I varnish. And if an actor proposes me something different, I jump on it. I am not focused on my previous work. For example, in Amélie, when Isabelle Nanty receives a café on the knees from Amélie, she says, "Oh, vive la France, en plein dans le mille, vive la France." It was an improvisation. And I love that. It was amazing. And if you look attentively to Amélie, she's from the back, but you can see her laughing because she laughed for real. You know, it was a surprise. I love surprises. Every director loves that. So, you know, when you make a storyboard, it's like when you take the freeway and suddenly you feel like to go on the really little road in the middle of the country. And suddenly you are lost. So you go back to the freeway.
It took you a year, you said, to write the screenplay. How long did it take you to do the storyboards for the film?
I think it's 2 months.
And
Life of
so,
Pi was longer, four
and
months, because it was so difficult. Life of Pi with the kid, the tiger. I had to build a boat, a model. I remember 4,500 pictures, and I fixed it on the software Photoshop. And so it was a long, 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 long process for
wow.
peanut at the end.
So how many pages was that of storyboards?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Just like a
150.
thick notebook. That makes
Yeah.
sense. One of the things that I think people really love about Amelie is that the first 15 or 20 minutes, it doesn't have a traditional story focus. You get
Exactly.
into all these characters who many of whom you never see again, their likes and dislikes, which I know is something of
Yeah,
a
yeah,
personal game that you
yeah,
like to play. It frees the viewer to really wonder what is going
yeah.
to happen next, and it's a
You
great way to
know,
start a movie.
I made a short film. You can see that on YouTube. Things I love, things I hate. It was a game, everything I love, everything I hate. And when I wrote Amélie, it wasn't on the first draft of the script. And I gave the script to a very good friend, another French director, Jean-Jacques Zilberman. And he told me, why you don't present the character exactly in the same way you made Amélie? And I said, no, it was the short film, Foutaise, things I love, things I hate. And I said, I already made that. You don't care. It was a short film. And he was right. I did that. It was a very good idea with the guy with the tuk tuk tuk. I love this kind of game. I love that. I have plenty of notes about that. Everything I love, everything I don't like.
It's a great opening to the movie, and your pacing is very fast. What
Yeah,
was it
and
like to keep that pacing going
yeah,
on the page?
and you know what? The story doesn't start. And I was very concerned about that with my editor. I said, if you lose the audience during the first 10 minutes, we will lose it for the whole film. And suddenly I was watching a film, Crouching Tiger or something, only movies, I don't remember. And I was thinking about my editing. And suddenly during the screening, I had an idea. And I put a small part with a second camera. I never use a second camera, but for the part, maybe it was a good coincidence, a good sign, with family writing on the glass. And the voice says, the story doesn't start, but be patient because it will start as soon as possible. It was a good idea because you say to the audience, don't leave the theater.
Right.
The story will start very quickly.
Casting was crucial for a movie like this. What about the audition for Audrey Tautou made you realize that she was Amelie?
I wrote the film for Emily Watson, the English actress, and she left a few weeks before for personal reason. I didn't know why. I met her one more time during an award in LA. I won for Critic Award in LA or something like this. And she was here and she was very nice, very happy, no regret. And when she quit, I was totally depressed. So I made a casting, but I saw only two French actresses, Emma de Caunes, if you know her, and Audrey, I did not know her because I saw a poster on the street with a small French movie. Not a small French movie, but she had a second role, second character. And I thought, oh, she has an interesting face. She looks like an elf. She could be interesting. We met, and she did not know my movie, so she watched Delicatessen. She understood what I love, and during the test, you can see the test on the bonus of the DVD after or the Blu-ray. After 10 seconds, I knew she was Amélie. I remember I told her, "Where do you come from? Are you on ET? Are you, because I was totally amazed, and I knew I had my Amélie."
It's wild that as Amelie's love interest, Nino, you cast Matthew Kassovitz, who is also a writer-director, and
Yeah.
at the time, he was known for the movie La Haine, Hate, and that was an interesting choice. What made you decide to cast him? I know he had a small role in City of Lost Children.
Matthew, we started together. He's younger than me, but we started together to make short film, and we met during short film festival because he loved the City of Lost Children. He told me, "For you, it will be what you want the day you want." So I thought about him, and he is a great actor. It's not easy every day. For example, I remember sometimes you pretend to be bad when you rehearse and you are in panic, and when you say rolling, suddenly he's good. I would like to kill him at this time. But I love Matthew. It's totally unfair because when you shoot, he's correct, and when you see the dailies, he's great. The camera loves him. It's totally unfair. So many actors, it's exactly the opposite. But for him, everything is easy for him. When he looks, he shows a picture of Amélie. It's you. She's in Zorro. And she said, "No, it's not me. See, it's you." He has a beautiful smile.
He did fantastic. It was just a wild choice to have a director playing her
No, no, no.
opposite
When
her.
he's an actor, he's an actor. The hate was a big problem for us because it was the same year of the City of Lost Children. And we were together in Cannes Film Festival, and the hate was such a big success. He had every cover of the magazine. We were inside the magazine. We lost the cover because of hate.
What was the budget and schedule for Amelie?
It's difficult to know because it was in franc, not in euro. It wasn't big. We shot, I think it was 19 weeks. I am used to have very long shooting. Even for my first feature, Delicatessen, it was 16 weeks for a first feature. It's huge. And the longer shooting was very long engagement. It was 22 weeks.
Wow.
Can you believe it? Yeah.
What was it for City of Lost Children? How many weeks?
Around 20 or
Wow,
maybe
that's great.
21 weeks. Yeah. I need to take time. If you want to make a beautiful frame with a beautiful lighting, you need time, especially when you work with Darius Khondji, with Delicatessen of the City and Alien Resurrection. You need some time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I had to fight to have 5 minutes for the directing. He needed 55 minutes for the lighting. Kurosawa, the Japanese director, was
Yeah.
used to say, if you make a film, if you take one picture, one frame of the film, it has to be like a painting. You are supposed to put it on the wall like a painting. And I believe in that. Probably because I come from animation. We say the same thing with Terry Gilliam. We want to be control freak. We would like to make everything ourselves. You know what I mean? And I make the framing myself. I don't operate, but I decide the frame, the lens, everything. And probably because I made that when I was making some stop motion short film.
I've
Mm.
found that from a lot of animators that I've interviewed because you have to know what's in your frame for animation, or there's
Yes.
nothing to
Yeah.
give to the artists or the sound department or the editors. So
Yeah.
it's a great way to get a sense of your visual language. So
Yeah.
that totally makes sense.
The reason I make some photo board after the storyboard because it's already the right frame with the right lens. And I love short lens because my big influence was coming from Once Upon a Time in the West, from A Clockwork Orange and Kubrick or Sergio Leone, Orson Welles. They love short lens, and I am used to use only short lens. For people they know, it's 18 or 21.
18 or 21 millimeters. Yeah. And what's great about it, and you did this a lot in Amelie, is it's able to capture mise en scène, right? Everything behind it, but you're able to put the lens very close to an actor's face
Yes,
and
oh
still
yes,
see what's behind them.
yes,
That's
yes.
something you did a lot in Amelie.
Oh, yes, a lot, yeah. For the very last one, if you watch that on Netflix, Big Bug, I try to avoid to have an angle and opposite angle. Joseph Losey did that on The Servant, a beautiful black and white movie. I had the same idea, in fact. It wasn't a ripoff. I had the same idea. For example, someone speaks on the other character, but he is on the back. He speaks like this, blah, 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 blah. He is on the back. And when I wanted to make a close-up, I did not make a close-up. It was the actor coming very close to the camera like this. And I love this kind of directing.
For podcast listeners around the world in iTunes and Spotify, and the watchers of our YouTube channel for Backstory Magazine, we are going to get into the spoilers of Amelie now. So
Okay.
if you have not yet seen Amelie, please go see it. It's getting a theatrical release here in America because it's been remastered and restored. And then even later, it's going to have a 4K release. Probably about a month later, you'll be able to see a new remastered version of it on video on demand. So if you haven't yet seen Amelie, press pause and come back because we're going to talk into the details of the story. One thing I always love to talk about, I'm curious about left turns. You had an idea for your script and maybe you storyboarded it and you were definitely going to do it, but then you had to cut it before you even shot. What's something that was an idea for Amelie that was never filmed, but was something that you wrote?
I admit to cut in the script, but I never cut something I shot. Yes, a little bit, a tiny bit, like everyone, but in Amelie, I think almost nothing. Just I remember a detail. It was a detail. When I say the father of Amelie, everything he loves, everything he hates, I wrote he hates to walk in a train because you move like this, you shake, it's like you are drunk. And I love this idea, but it was too expensive because when you take the train, you have to go to the ending and to go back. It was half of the day. So I gave up this idea. It was too expensive to make.
So it was just going to show him wobbling on the train back and
Yeah,
forth,
but
like,
probably today we could make with a visual effect, probably. Yeah, but yeah, at this time it was too expensive.
and that was the only idea from the screenplay?
Probably not, but I don't remember. But
Okay.
I think we didn't cut a lot of things.
The shot that you constructed of him chasing the mystery man out of the station,
I
you're
love
using
the
a
shot.
techno crane to go upstairs to
No.
come very close to his moped and see him drive off before the photo album falls off of the moped. Tell us about
No.
constructing that amazing shot.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite shot of all my film. But no, it was a Steadicam, and the
Okay.
Steadicam was a Western dolly. I mean, with soft wheels because it was a pavement on the street, and that's it. It was a kind of miracle. The worst at this time, the video monitor was very bad, especially without cable, because they had to drive, they had to go fast, so no cable. I couldn't see anything on my monitor. It was very bricolage, we say in French. No technocrane. The technocrane was on the next shot when she reads the book under the train station, at the entrance or the exit of the train station. It was a technocrane.
Right. I mean, you used it twice, but I love the shot of him losing the book and her finding
Yeah.
it because that's just an amazing shot.
And it was very dangerous for the moped touching the car, and it works. Of course, it wasn't Matthew Kassovitz. It was a stunt.
Did you need to use any special effects?
At the beginning of the film, you see the glasses dancing on the sheet of the table. It was a true story. I saw that in Greece when I was in vacation. And it was a miracle of the life. And I said, I will put that in a film one day. This film is full of anecdotes. And when you want to do that with special effects, it was a nightmare with fans, with stuff. It was very difficult to get. And it was so easy for the nature and very difficult for the men.
Movies sometimes have an antagonist that is someone the protagonist, the hero, has to battle. And here you kind of don't. You have Collignon, the grocer, who Amelie takes revenge on. When
Yeah.
did that idea come about of kind of making him the bad guy for the
I'm
film?
sure you know the story.
I know part of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's half a joke, but I had a very, very bad review from a guy. He hates me for every movie that I make because
Right.
he's very jealous, probably. And so I imagined the scene thinking about him, my revenge against the bad critic. And Collignon was a victim. It was a kind of satisfaction. Boy, it's half a joke.
Right. The switching of the foot cream for the toothpaste was one of the
Yes.
things that you wanted to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
It was perfect. Amelie becomes essentially energized and feeling good about doing good deeds, helping people out. And the first thing that she does is the tin box that she finds in her wall. It's such a simple idea. It's almost like a short film of her trying to find the man who owned the
Mm,
box and put it
mm.
in the wall. When
I
did that
have to
idea
admit,
come about? Because
well,
it's a beautiful
I'm sure
sequence.
you know as well. It's an homage to Wim Wenders, the German director.
Right.
I love this guy. And he was in a film, but I don't remember the title in English. Au fil du temps in French, the story of a guy in a truck
Yeah.
crossing the whole Germany, fixing some projector in black and white, amazing, beautiful black and white. At this time, he goes in his childhood house, and under the stair, he finds a box with the small toys. And he cries, of course. And Wim Wenders himself made an homage to Nicholas Ray, because Nicholas Ray made a film, don't ask me the title as well. It was a
Okay.
film with Robert Mitchum, and Robert Mitchum goes under the house of his childhood. He finds the same thing, some small toys, a broken gun, a toy, a book, if I remember. So it's a homage by Ricochet. Chung, 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 chung.
It works, and it's a
Yeah,
great thing that drives the movie. Something that you did that I really it leapt out at me when I rewatched it in your remastered version, which looks beautiful, is the way that Amelie records television. And she makes these mixtapes for her neighbor. And the first one she uses, obviously, is the scene of the horse joining in on the Tour de France
France,
with all the bicyclists. But
yeah.
you were doing this before YouTube existed. You were doing
Yes,
this
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
this is
and so it was
interesting.
very cutting edge. I'm curious, was that something you used to do, record
No, no, no,
television?
no, no, no. We had a show on Canal Plus, the French TV at this time, the zapping of Canal Plus, and every day they show some funny parts every day. And at the end of the year, they show the whole small parts during 2 hours. And it was a kind of collection of magical moments. So I bought the videotapes, the VCR videotapes, to rewatch it and to find the best part. So it was a long process. Now it's so easy on YouTube to have magical moments, and it was magical. If we would have made the film today, probably it would have been so magical because we are used to see magical things. I hate social network, but I love YouTube for that. I love Pinterest to have beautiful references. I love that. I love video with love story between different animals. Oh, I love that. This is my side, Amélie side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and, that's what was so great about the animals that were talking as she was dreaming, the
Oh,
animals on her
yes. Yeah.
picture and on her
Yeah.
light stand that were talking. That was, like, a beautiful moment as well.
We built the pig lamp, and the lamp pig is still in my office,
Oh,
the
that's
original
great.
one. We had a beautiful exhibition in Paris and in Lyon. At all, we had almost 200,000 admission, which is great for France
Wow.
and for cinema exhibition. Yeah.
That scene with the VHS tapes that she would give her neighbor always spoke to me because I used to record television and do weird mixtapes as well. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always loved it. One of the things that I really also leapt out at me when I rewatched it that was interesting, I could have seen it go either way in your screenplay, was the narration of the movie. There's a lot of narration. And I could
Yeah,
see
I
a
love that
version
as well.
where maybe one version, I'm curious if it ever existed, where it was actually Amelie narrating her own story rather than a documentary style narrator. So tell us how you decided on that.
It's coming from Untouchables, the series in black and white with Robert Stack. If you remember, at 8 o'clock, Robert Stack and his guy arrives at the train station, da 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 da
Right.
da da. And Stanley Kubrick did the same thing for The Killing, I think, The Killing, and same kind of voiceover. And I loved that. And I tried to hire the guy who makes the French version of Untouchable, and we did, but he was too old, and we can recognize on the voice he was 70. And I met probably 150 different actors. I couldn't find the same quality. And one day I was at the editing room and I listened a voice on the next room. It was André Dussolier, and immediately I knew this is him.
That's wild.
And I hired him for the short film I spoke, the short film, The Véritable Histoire d'Amélie Poulain, the true story of Amélie, on YouTube, 6 minutes. I hired the same guy for the voiceover, André Dussolier.
You just brought up your short film. You made that recently. What
Yeah, the
inspired that?
last year for the pleasure. Because, I love freedom. And when I am in Provence, like right now, I have a workshop and I built some animals, some character with stuff found in the nature. And you can see that on my site. And I love to use my hand. It's very necessary for me to use my hands. And I love to make short film. It's a space of freedom. And it's very important for me because to make a feature now, it takes so much time. And
Yeah.
so freedom is so important.
I hope
Yeah,
everybody goes to your site and watches your short films. I can't wait
I
to go
hope
watch
so.
the Amelie short because I have not seen it yet, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
The gnome concept of the traveling gnome became very iconic from the film. It's also thematic because she's urging her father to get out and explore the world, which is Amelie's character arc as well. When did
Mm.
that idea come about in your process?
In fact, it's my production designer. She told me that story and never tell a story to a director. He steals everything. If you remember La Nuit Américaine from François Truffaut and Jacqueline Bisset, she says some personal things, and the day after, it's on the dialogues. And she said, oh, it's horrible. So every director are doing the same thing. And The Garden Gnome is a story from my production designer. And it's fact, it's true. There is a film Up in the Air, I think. No, Up in the Air, yeah, with George Clooney. And he travels a lot, and they tell the same story. And he says it's coming from a French movie. They don't say Amélie, but a French movie. Probably because they were concerned to be sued.
You know, one of the things that's really interesting is how visual the love story is between Amelie and Nino. And rewatching it, I was surprised at the lack of dialogue. They really don't speak a lot to each other, but they see and feel a lot and have
Yeah,
this connection. That could be tough.
yeah,
Was there
yeah.
ever more dialogue in earlier drafts?
No, at all, Amélie has 2 pages of dialogues. I remember when I was working with Emily Watson, she had to learn French for 2 pages. It's weird, 2 pages for the whole film. And I cut immediately after they kiss each other and probably they make love. I cut because after it's not interesting. A love story, it's interesting before when, they approach, they flirt. After it's not interesting. 1 year later, Matthew Kassovitz drinking some beer, watching football on TV, and Amelie has a kid on, on the arm, and she complains, probably.
Was that something that you cut or that's something that you're just joking about?
No, 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 no. We could make a sequel with the bad side of Amelie when she teased the grocery man.
Yeah,
Probably we could have that. But some people in France, they did that. I could sue them because they stole this idea. Not with
interesting.
Amélie, but a character like Amélie. But Coco Chanel was used to say everything is not stolen, is not interesting.
Have you ever really considered making a sequel? Is that something that you would consider writing?
Of course, everybody asked, but I know we couldn't be able to make something at the same level. I had an idea at one point it could be to have another girl, because now Audrey is too old, but another girl, a fan of Amélie, trying to do the same thing, but she's very bad and she missed everything. I wanted to put that in a short film, but for the future, I don't know.
One of the elements that I loved that was also very visual was the mystery man at the photo booth and how Amelie solves the mystery as
Yeah,
it's the mechanic who's just checking the booth and taking pictures of himself and ripping them
yeah.
up. When did
True
that
story.
idea come about? Because it was a
True
great way to
story.
connect them.
The collection, the real collection exists, and the guy had exactly the same story with the guy who fixed the photomaton. Same story, true story.
Just a true story in which they were not sure why he kept appearing and then they realized he was the fix it man.
Exactly, exactly. And of course, we made a fake photo book because it was the right for the people. Of course, we couldn't use the real one, but we make a fake one. And when you cannot recognize the people because the picture are too destroyed, we use the real photo book. The name of the guy is Michel Folco. He was a photographer. He was totally crazy, obsessed by the collection of photomaton. And when you met him for the first time, he take a picture of you. Immediately, you are in another book.
One of my favorite shots in the movie is when Nino shows up at the restaurant and she appears behind him through the
I love that
glass
one.
in a reveal.
Yeah,
Tell us about the construction of that shot because it's really the start of the intimacy between the two characters. Although he had met her when he was in the haunted, ride at the carnival as well. But that's just a great shot. I love that shot.
the small trick is very easy, but for that you need a good actress. And let me tell you something weird. When I shot the commercial for Chanel 5 with Audrey too as well, probably you know that it was what 15 years ago. We shot on the Bosphore in Istanbul, and we were in a boat. And I made a close-up on Audrey, and it was a boat, a small sailboat behind her, and the people were doing. And when I shot the shot at the right moment, Audrey hides the boat at the right moment. When I said cut, the boat was on the frame again. A kind of miracle because this is Audrey. Of course, we could erase the boat later, but it was a kind of miracle. This is magical Audrey.
How many times did you have to rehearse that shot where she appears behind him
I
in the
don't remember.
cafe?
It was pretty easy because Audrey is good. She is very good for the technique. Sometimes, you know what is it? A dolly. The dolly is the
Yeah,
machine
yeah.
to put the camera on it. And sometimes the camera was too heavy for the small dolly and it was too slow. For example, when she catch the box behind the wall, she raised up and the dolly couldn't follow her. And I said, at this time, Audrey, I need on help for the grips. And she said, okay, I saw that, no problem. And immediately she slowed down and she was perfect sync with the dolly. She's very good for the technique, Audrey. And it's very important for me, but because as you said, I ask the people to be very precise, to come very close to the lens. 20 centimeters for me is not 25. No, it has to be very precise.
Also, she was, as I'm sure people have realized, writing backwards on the glass, which is no small skill, that's
Yeah.
not easy to do. As they finally meet at her apartment, I just want to talk about that for a quick second. When she's cooking, she has this fantasy of him buying food for her, and the beads in the kitchen move, but they move from her cat. That was just a beautiful sequence, and I'm just curious how timing worked for that, to get that and her fantasy in her mind to link up, because it's just a great idea.
Ah, yes, with the cat. This is my favorite scene of the film. I already said that. I think it was a good idea.
It was great, and the timing was perfect with the cat coming
Yes,
into the
yeah.
beads.
When you imagine something like this, you know. I am used to say, you touch the little figure of God.
It was perfect. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious, when she finally opens the door and she just gives him little kisses. Again, a lot of people would have put some dialogue in there and you didn't. And
Yes.
it's a beautiful
Or music.
moment. Was it
No
always that
dialogue.
way on the page, or were there other ideas that you had played with?
No, no, no. It was exactly like I wanted that exactly like this. And I am very proud about that scene. This is my favorite scene. If you want a funny anecdote,
Yeah.
in a small city in France, during that scene, so in a complete silence, and the audience loves that, the silence, it was very respectful. And suddenly, in one cinema in Nîmes, a city in south of France, the owner of the car number Dana has to move his car on the parking lot.
Right.
Perfect, destroy the scene and the film.
That's really funny. Do you think they make it? Do they live happily ever after in your mind?
No, I told you. Probably 2 years later, she had 2 kids. He's lazy, watching football game on the couch, drinking beer. I don't know.
What was the toughest scene to write during your process or to shoot as a director?
Everything was easy. It was a very easy film to write, to shoot. It happened sometime. Because it was after Alien Resurrection, coming back from LA,
Right.
sometime I thought, it's too easy. I need more pressure. And no, no, I don't remember anything very difficult. And sometimes you are lucky with the nature. For example, when the father put the small mausoleum in the garden, the sky is black behind, very dark. And the trees are moving and there is a sun on the trees because the storm was coming. It was a kind of miracle. You have to shoot very quickly because otherwise it's too late. It's rainy. After 10 minutes, it will be rainy. It happens sometimes and you have to jump on it.
Well, Jean-Pierre, I absolutely love the movie. The restoration is beautiful. I hope everyone goes sees it in theaters and then watches it on VOD, because Amélie is an absolute classic.
To be sincere, it's not in 4K, it's in 2K, but it's exactly the same thing because we couldn't make 4K for technical reason, but the 2K is absolutely perfect. You don't see any difference. 4K is an invention from TV sellers.
It looks absolutely beautiful, and I hope everyone
Yeah.
goes to see it, because Amélie is a classic, and I hope to interview you again one day. Jean-Pierre, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a nice day.
You too. Thanks.
Ciao.